Hello everybody. The first 7 minutes of this video is a brief description of several different kinds of relief sculpture. The second 7 or 8 minutes is me walking you through one specific project that I created, and then the last 7 minutes is me giving you some specific techniques on how you are going to be able to build your own project. I hope that this is arranged in a user-friendly way. Stop when you need to, move forward when you need to, and I hope you enjoy the project. My name is Mrs. Burse, and I'm going to be talking to you today about low relief sculpture. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you, and then I'm going to get over here, and then I'm going to turn myself off in this corner. I wanted you to have a face to go with a voice that's going to be talking to you, but I don't need my image up here in the corner. So let's get started. We're going to talk about relief sculpture. And what just exactly is that? So, to create a sculpture in relief is to give the impression that the sculpted material has been raised above the background plane. There are many types of relief sculpture, and we are going to be doing relief sculpture with paper. Ultimately, for our project, the ones that I'm going to show you here now are done in marble and some gold leaf and some bronze, right? So we're going to look at low relief, high relief, and sunken relief. This is a low relief sculpture, and you can tell that because it just barely comes up out of the back of the material that it has been carved out of. This is the same thing, a low relief. And here are several more that are done in low relief, just above, right? Unlike this, which is high relief, and you can tell high relief because more than 50% of the body mass of the subject matter comes away from the background. So the heads here and the shoulders and the arms and these pieces and the heads over here let you know that this is done in high relief. This is also done in high relief. This one's done in bronze. The horse and the soldier are in high relief. We have a combination going on here. We've got some things, the lettering in the background and some of the decorative things, as well as the leaves in her arm. Those are in low relief. So this has really a combination, but the horse with his legs and everything is definitely in high relief. This is another example of high relief. Here we have sunken relief, the sunken edges for sure, and then the carving within it is a low relief sculpture, but it's all started and nothing comes above this flat surface that was started with. This large panel here is the same way. This is all done in sunken relief. So now that we know a little bit about what relief sculpture is, I don't necessarily want to carve tigers and Madonnas and soldiers. I want to do something else. I want to feed my brain. So I'm going to look at the artwork of Rob Gonsalves, Rene Magritte, and Salvador Dali. So let's start with Rob Gonsalves. He did the ships and clouds, which you might be familiar with. Look at this as the ships go back into space and the columns come forward and become space. Pretty mind bending, right? Interesting. If you ever have a chance to look up his work, he's fantastic to look at. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to be able to make something just like this, but it sure gets my brain going and it makes me think about the things that I like to do. I like to hike, I like the water, and I like rocks. Right? Look at these folks. I love how these quilts turn into the farm fields. And I like how this young man is cutting the curtains to look like a cityscape with the stars being the lights when he's in a rustic cabin. Rene Magritte, probably most familiar with this picture. It's called The Son of Man, with this apple that obscures or hides this gentleman's face. And these fish sculptures, he did a painting of these people that look like they might have been carved. Are they made out of sand? Not really sure what's going on here. Salvador Dali. We've got this background and we've got this face that looks like it was just kind of this wire thing set down in the middle of all of this, and the face is starting to appear on the framework. He's got some kind of buggy legged elephants walking across the desert. And persistence of memory with a melted clock's probably one of the more famous works by Salvador Dali. And I think that's the one that we're going to base our work on, or at least the components of. So I think I'm going to create something that has a few large objects and that has some simple shapes and that has textures. So we're ready to work. So go ahead and get your paper and your glue and your scissors and your workspace all ready to go so we can get busy and work. With a wet washcloth and a dry paper towel right next to it. And that way, if I get glue on my fingers, I can wash off and dry off and keep working. The other thing is you're going to take one of your heavier pieces of paper or maybe even a little piece of foil that you have. And I did this just to show you an example, okay? We're going to be working with glue, and we're going to be working with a lot of glue. But you don't want to get a whole huge puddle out all at one time, because if you do that, then it skins over and it gets a gummy film on it. So look at that. I put that on there. That's plenty for right now. It's really more nickel size than quarter size, right? So you don't need any glue any more than a quarter size at a time, right? We may have to refill that, but that's what we're working with right now. So the first technique is to roll up tiny thin strips of paper. And when you make your strips, you want to make sure that they are the same. This one's a little crookedy. See, this one's short on this end and a little bit wider on this end. You want to make sure that you're getting your paper strips cut so that they are the same size on either end. And the reason you want that is so that when you roll them, let me get this started here. When you roll them, if they're a different height on different ends, this top will be crooked and your paper won't want to sit on it flat, right? Once you get that rolled up, you just open it up a little bit and you just take your finger, just get a little bit of glue and rub it on the end of this until you can barely see it, and then you roll it back up and you hold it for about 10 or 15 seconds, maybe just a couple seconds, depending on how ready it is to dry, right? And you set that aside. As you see here, I have a stem. I wanted those all the same size, so I rolled a bunch that were all the same size. I already glued those on there to save some time, right? And I'm going to show you how I'm going to put that down. So you take one of these, I'll do it on this other leaf here. You take one of the pieces that you have rolled, and you have to roll them tight enough that there's a surface area that will pick up glue. If it's just a single piece of paper, just a single roll, it doesn't want to hold the glue as well. So you just dab this, right? I didn't drown it in there. It's just got a little bit on there. And we take that and we put it on the back of the piece that we want to raise up. And again, you kind of hold it there for a little bit. And I have a couple of those going on here. I'll do this one so it'll be ready here in a second. There's another type of connection that's called a flange, and I've built one here already. It took a little bit of time to cut the fringe. So let's move on to the next kind of fastening. So far we've had our coils, we've had a flange, and now we're going to do something called tabs, right? And they're basically these little tiny boxes that we put together in order to elevate our basic shape here. So like I said, if I want to know exactly where my piece is going to go, and in this instance, it also helps me know where to put the tabs, I trace around my gecko here. And actually, a gecko is just a snake with legs, right? Let's take this off of here and see how I have an outline there. To make a tab, you take a straight piece of paper, right? And you're gonna fold it. And the next fold is the height. Right, so that's how high. This is how high it's going to be off of the paper. So I make a distance across there. And I want to make sure the other side is the same height. Otherwise my gecko will be crooked, right? And I did. See how this is shorter on this side? I don't want that. I want it to be a little bit longer. And you can measure this with a pencil, but I like to just, that takes a lot of time. So I like to just eyeball it, right? And then you would take this and you would glue this onto here. I made a bunch earlier, so I'm going to use the ones that I made because I know they're all the same size. And I'm just going to set this one aside. And because I made a nice tracing, I know exactly where this needs to go. I want to make a really tall flower. You know, we're talking about doing things in really high relief. The problem is when you start making really tall tubes, they want to fall over. Even if I have a puddle of glue, and I can make a big puddle of glue and it'll sit there and it'll sit there and it'll fall over and I'll get really angry and really frustrated. So if you're doing something like a forest of flowers, okay, these wanted to fall over all the time. Now they're on there pretty sturdily because I added a tab. So let me show you. It's really simple. All you do, now you can just put a flat tab on there and make it stick onto there, but try and incorporate your artwork, right? If I'm gonna make a water spout, try and use maybe some blue. And I put that on here. And I press it on and I hold it. And while that one's holding, I'll get the other one. One tab is probably not going to be enough. It'll want to fall over in that direction. So I would suggest 3. And that'll make a nice anchor. Okay. Good. All right, so we have our coils that we used for the relief in here. We have the flange that we used on this flower. Different textures, high relief, low relief, tabs that we put underneath our gecko, right? And feet tabs for anything that's super tall. So use your imagination, make your amazing worlds. Okay, windows, worms, grass, flowers, bridges. So now let's take those and let's make some sort of environment, some land of make-believe. It can be something that a bug can crawl through. It can be mini scale cityscape. It is whatever you want. I did one earlier. I think this next one is going to be even better. But I've got fringe, and I've got little worms that are crawling through here, and I've got little windows, and I've got a tiny door, bridges, different pads that they can jump on, flowers they can crawl in. Just fun, right? Wherever your imagination takes you. So this is the one that I'm going to be working with. There is a lazy river in low relief, and the door and the flowers are in high relief. And this is what I'm going to be working on here in QuickTime. So let's get started. Wonderful things, okay? Doors, flowers, water, coffee cups, whatever it is that interests you is what you should be building for this project. And don't worry if you haven't seen it somewhere else. You may be creating a one-of-a-kind thing, right? We've got some high relief and low relief. We've got different textures here. So have fun, everybody. Watch the video on how to properly photograph your artwork for digital upload, and I can't wait to see what you have made.